COVID-19, Atheism in the Dock. Akbar. You are saying that all that God has created is faultless. Then why did he create man in such a way that his lungs and digestive canal are in the same place? That is the reason why we can't breathe when food gets stuck in our throat, and some of us die. If the Creator is indeed an intelligent designer, could he not have created 2 tubes without such problems? Does this not make clear that there was no design of an intelligent designer behind human creation, as believers argue? This question has been posed by an atheist evolutionist. This is his counter-argument to the believers who argue that such an intelligent design as can be seen in the universe makes us convinced of the existence of a designer. This question was inspired by an exponent of destelliology, which states that nothing in the creation of the universe has any purpose. The progenitor of this was a German evolutionist, Ernest Haeckel. Their purpose is to prove that there is no design behind anything, and all that the believers claim as design has actually emerged as accidents in the transition of an organism from imperfection to perfection. Their argument is that the pharynx is a needless and dangerous piece of the human body system. The air we breathe in from our nose passes through the pharynx, and the food we eat from our mouth also passes through the pharynx. Since the air and food pass through the pharynx before they go to the larynx and esophagus, sometimes food can actually get stuck in the larynx, causing choking. They say that if this imaginary creator had arranged the larynx and esophagus as 2 separate tubes, respectively, from nose to lungs and from mouth to stomach without the pharynx, accidents and death caused by choking could have been avoided. In other words, had God been as intelligent as I am, he would have created humans without the pharynx. The conclusion is that the presence of pharynx in human neck proves that either God is not so intelligent as I am, or there is no God. That is a scientific proof for there being no God. I remembered this argument when I saw the celebration of atheists in social media regarding COVID-19. The whole world is involved in the thought, explorations, and activities regarding how to save humans from this affliction. The scientists are trying to do research on finding drugs and vaccines. Political leaders are hectically discussing ways to keep the places under their rule disinfected. Doctors and healthcare workers are working hard to treat the infected patients and save them from death. Health workers and social activists are working day and night giving instructions to keep the spread of disease under control and organizing sanitization programs. Religious and political activists are busy distributing means and systems to arrest the spread of the disease. Priests, religious scholars, and missionaries are motivating believers to face the miseries with equanimity and courage by praying for themselves and those around them. With all these going on, the fact that tens and thousands of new patients are registered every day saddens us all. The night before writing this article at 10 p.m., the number of patients was 179,829. By the morning, the number of cases had reached 182,611. Those who have sympathy and compassion have a bleeding heart for those who have been afflicted by this disease. All believers are praying for them, for the infected, and all human beings worldwide. All humans are really sad about the state of affairs in the world, except for a few of them. Their happiness and celebrations are all over social media. They are happy about having an issue to beat God with. When religious scholars said that those who have symptoms of the disease were not supposed to come to the places of worship, they lit firecrackers out of happiness. They had a waltz of joy when they heard the news that the Umrah pilgrimage in Mecca was temporarily stopped. Their loud uproar is about the failure of God in front of a small virus. They argue that religious scholars and priests were so powerless. Once Umrah and Hajj pilgrimage is stopped, God will soon step out of the picture without ever claiming his supremacy back. Poor God. However, the atheists, they are like this. When there was a flood in Kerala, everyone was on a rescue mission. All the rich and poor, the businessmen and laborers, workers of various political parties, and the followers of various religions were on an endeavor to stand together and take this land of ours on to safety. But the atheists, they were busy with pushing their pens and sharing their posts. They were celebrating to challenge believers. Then they asked the question, how is there a flood if there is indeed a God? When I heard the question, how are there viruses if there was indeed God? I remembered the argument regarding the pharynx as a proof for their denial of God. All those who ask these questions are not simpletons. Richard Dawkins, who is self-styled as a biologist, once heard the news of the death of a giraffe. He reached the place, chopped its neck, and discovered that its recurrent laryngeal nerve is longer than required. He showed it as his exhibit to prove that had there been a God, it should not have a long neck. To the question as to why do humans have a pharynx if there is indeed God, there is another question in reply. It is possible now to surgically fit a human body with two separate tubes, one from nose to lungs and one from mouth to stomach, though the procedure would be a complex one. But are they prepared to hand over their body to another human to subject it to such an experiment? Before answering this question with a yes, it would be better to think of one's face after the surgery. There would be an additional cavity in one's face. It would be unnatural. Pharynx is a human organ in which two metabolic activities equal to that of an ape, two senses different from that of an ape, and one peculiarity of a man are all conjoined in a complex way. Metabolic activities are breathing and the intake of food and water. The physiological structure for these metabolic acts in apes are almost equal to that of humans. Though apes have a nose that senses smell and tongue that senses taste, they do not feel it in the same way that humans do. Nose, tongue, and lips play some sexual roles. Speech produced with the help of the pharynx is specific to humans. Only man has a peculiarity of speech. The pharynx is designed in humans, taking all these factors into consideration. The pharynx allows humans to speak and create languages. It is the coordinated acts of the nose and mouth which lead to the formation of letters and words in the mouth. The pharynx joins these two organs to make human speech. Though we smell mainly through our nose, it is because of the pharynx that we can breathe through our mouth in exigency. If we did not have a pharynx, we would be asphyxiated when we do hard physical labor or swim. If we can breathe only through our noses, we will be in need of a large one, and a large-nosed man will have to carry a handle filter to keep away bees and insects. And as the vapors in the air cannot pass through the throat, we will have to walk with a running nose. The reason why we can taste our food is that smell and taste are mingled in our pharynx. If the pharynx did not have access to both our mouth and nasal cavity, the food we take in would have been devoid of taste, just as it is when we have the common cold. If it was not for the pharynx, we would have been in need of an entirely other organ which opens only to speak, as well as other systems to defend pathogens which can go inside through that organ. There would be so many problems like these. Then, let the questioner tell. Are we really in need of a surgery to remove the pharynx while fitting separate canals into the human body for every individual function? Those individuals for whom belligerent atheism has not grown into a neurosis will say an assertive no to this question. As for viruses, they are biological molecules of which we cannot say that they have life or not. According to biologists, these microorganisms are most in number in the biological world, which standing alone do not show any sign of life, and which, when they reach inside the organic cell, reproduce. The world had not been aware of viruses till 1892, when Russian scientist Dmitry Ivanovsky came to understand the microorganisms that cause the disease in tobacco leaves. They are much smaller than bacteria, the unicellular creatures. Whereas bacteria have the length of 1,000 nanometers, the length of viruses is 20 to 400 nanometers. If we say that there is 40 million bacteria in a gram of sand, we can guess how small both bacteria and virus are in their size. The question as why viruses and bacteria were created come from ignorance about them. We are familiar with them simply as pathogens, but nothing is farther from the truth. There are more bacteria and microorganisms in human body than even cells. The cells in human body are 3.72 million. Studies variously say that there are 3 times as many microorganisms. Whatever be their numerical strength, these millions of microorganisms play some crucial roles in the human body. They have some important roles to play in our digestion, immunity, and breathing process. These microorganisms do many more things than our cells are capable of doing, such as dissolution of carbohydrates and poisonous matters, helping in the absorption of fatty acids, and defending some dangerous pathogens, which the white blood cells cannot defend. All these happen on account of symbiosis between the microorganisms and our body. When this symbiosis is impaired, the same microorganisms turn out to be destructive. It is our immune system that prevents the symbiosis between our cells and microorganisms from being impaired. It is the external viruses that play the role of developing our immunity system stage by stage. The immunity is strengthened through virus attacks during our infancy. There are certain viruses called bacteriophages that destroy dangerous bacteria. While the scientists are perturbed by the problem that pathogenic bacteria are able to gradually attain the power to resist antibiotics, which humans have developed to destroy them, they find the bacteriophages as a solution. Researches in that direction have picked up steam in the world of science. The world of science has realized that viruses are not just pathogens. The study in 2015, published by the Journal of Virology, brought out by American Society of Virology, substantiates this argument. The PhD study titled Move Over Bacteria, Viruses Make Their Mark as a Mutualistic Microbial Symbionts was prepared by Marilyn Rosnick, professor of plant pathology and environmental microbiology of Pennsylvania University. The study makes it clear that the viruses which we consider merely as pathogens play the role of making earth and water livable. They preserve the food-producing plants and help maintain immunity of the human body. The world has realized that viruses that are micro-creatures of the merciful God on earth play a beneficiary role in the world. For believers, new studies in the field of virology will be the commentary of the Quranic verse, My mercy encompasses all things. Quran, Juz 7, Ayah 156. Mercy of Allah is inherent in all things which we experience, whether we view it as good or bad. Yes, all small and big phenomena in the universe are expressions of God's mercy, invincibility, and supremacy, whether we understand it or not.